After this record-breaking hot summer, I'm ready to learn more about climate solutions that work for our community. If you're feeling the heat, check out the Idaho Women's Charitable Foundation's LEAD Symposium. On October 2nd at the Boise Center, hear from climate scientist Dr. Jonathan Foley of Project Drawdown and nonprofit leader Dana Gunders from ReFed. Don't miss out on this chance to learn how to make a real impact. Buy your tickets at iwcfgives.org. That's iwcfgives.org. Today on CityCast Boise. Ballot initiatives have been making major headlines, and Boise State Public Radio's George Prentice is joining me to break down a brand new strategic reproductive rights proposal. Plus, we're discussing the recent legal victory for a local pro-Palestinian demonstration that's been protesting for over 100 days. And we're rounding out the week with our tips for the Western Idaho Fair. It's Friday, August 16th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Well, thank you, George, for joining me for yet another Friday News Roundup.
Well, thanks for the invite, Lindsay.
I'm glad you're here. This has been, legally speaking, a very bustling week for Boise and for the state.
I think bustling puts it very well.
Yeah, it's... I want to jump into ballot initiatives, and ballot initiatives plural, because now we've got several initiatives that have had some legal things happening this week. Did you see the latest ballot initiative news?
You bet I did. It is now official, a new effort, and we have been hearing about this and talking about this, but unofficially up until now. But an official effort to put reproductive rights on an Idaho ballot. On Thursday, the group Idahoans United for Women and Families filed draft language. And so, not to get too deep into the weeds here, but what you have to do is you have to go to the Secretary of State's office, and keep in mind that that's the office in charge of elections, and you let them know, we intend to create a petition in order to get something on the ballot. But you have to get your words right.
Yes.
So that's what this is. They filed draft language with the Secretary of State's office, language that they want to put on petitions in order to create a ballot initiative. Now, some people have asked, oh, golly, will I be able to vote on this November? No. It is way too deep into the year to do that. So their target is 2026. Ask yourself again, why 2026? It's because we only do state elections every 2 years. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind that municipal, local elections are odd years, state elections are even years, so that's why it would be 2026. So they're basically want to create a single final petition. Indeed, they want to include policies to restore or protect the right to contraception, the right to fertility treatment, including IVF, and abortion. Right out front, abortion with the following circumstances.
They've proposed very comprehensive proposals for this potential ballot initiative that I don't think other states have done. So this is, I think, the most comprehensive one I've seen. I haven't seen other states necessarily include in vitro and fertility treatments and contraceptives.
It is strategic. I think that's probably the best way to put it, because there are some people who may be somewhere in the middle on abortion rights, but you start talking about IVF and you start talking about access to birth control, chances are people are going to want to say, yes, we have to protect that. So I think it's very strategic to bundle these together, if you will.
Oh, I agree, especially in a state like Idaho. And I just want to refresh anybody's memory. We have, at the moment, a near total abortion ban with only exceptions for rape and incest during the first trimester after filing a police report, or to save the pregnant person's life. That's all. Those are the only exceptions. So there's not a health exception. And then there are no other opportunities people would have to have an abortion as reproductive care in this state.
And it gets really messy really fast in regards to
Yes.
that filing the police report. We're
Yes.
starting to do some reporting on this, and we're talking to county sheriff's offices across Idaho who aren't even familiar with the mechanics of this law. And if you do not file a report within a certain amount of time, you would not be eligible for an abortion if you were a victim of rape or incest. It's really it's quite a mess.
No, I spoke to some various officers and I asked, what is the form? Like,
Yeah.
can you show me what the form looks like? Because I want to take a screenshot. I actually wanted to make a social media content about it. What is the form I would fill out if I said I'd been raped or had something happen to me and I was pregnant and now I would like to get an abortion? And there's no form. There is no, they're like, well, there's not actually, at the time of me asking about a year ago, there was no process. There was nothing. There was no mechanism in place so that if you go to the police and say, I'd like to file a police report, I was raped, I would like to get an abortion. There is no form for you to take to the doctor to say, oh, the police here's the police verifying that I submitted something. There's nothing for you to take to a judge. There's nothing for you to officially show what is happening. So even though we say we have those exceptions, functionally they don't exist. There is no process to utilize that to get the healthcare you need.
And in addition to that, this new effort would include exceptions for medical emergencies, quite simply medical emergencies, if there is fetal viability. Other than that, there are some other specifics as far as 20 weeks gestation, with exceptions to protect the life and health of the mom, or until 24 weeks gestation. So they being this group, Idahoans United for Women and Families, they know that there are going to be efforts to stop them.
Yes.
And let's just name this. The odds of the state attorney general, Raul Labrador, trying to derail this are extremely high.
Yes.
In that he will probably try to challenge their wording. He'll try to challenge the very idea of trying to do this. Well, good luck with that, AG Labrador, because so far your efforts at state Supreme Court have not been going well on some of your other challenges.
No, he doesn't have a great track record so far of his challenges being successful at all. And so, yeah, now that they've submitted the proposal, the Attorney General Raul Labrador has 20 working days to review the language and submit feedback and provide a certificate to the Secretary of State, Phil McGrain's office. And so that's why all of these different proposals matter. Now, did you see the statement that Raul issued about this?
But share that.
Quote, I look forward to working with the proponents to craft true and impartial ballot titles for these proposed initiatives as required by Idaho law, end quote.
Basically, it's a fight for who gets to put a title on this, who gets to put a handle on this. We know where this is heading. This is heading to court. And the questions and the conversations I've had with the folks behind this and that you've had, we have asked, this will become litigious. And they usually smile and say, yep, and we've got the attorneys, they are ready. And so the reason they have filed, here it is in August, is because they fully expect to probably be in the courts for a couple of months, but they are optimistic about getting these petitions ready and starting to get signatures as early as this December. But then they've got the better part of a year and a half to get enough signatures.
Yeah. And according to Melanie Falwell, the group's spokesperson and founder, they've got a lot of momentum behind them. It sounds like they've had some really fantastic fundraising. It sounds like they've had lots of people want to volunteer. So it sounds like she even spoke about how all of the national publicity about what this is doing in Idaho, what these abortion bans are doing in Idaho, has led to a lot of people reaching out and wanting to participate, feeling motivated about participating. So according to Melanie, at least, there is a lot of momentum behind this. And Raul Labrador has a history of trying to write titles for ballot initiatives that were ruled by the courts as misleading or very biased. So there is a history there. But he also just recently had a court loss with another ballot initiative. Did you see about this,
Absolutely.
George?
And this is something that is going to be on the ballot this November. This is the effort to ask Idahoans, what do you think about open primaries? And the Attorney General said, oh, well, we have to stop this. And he filed suit in Idaho State Supreme Court. And the court basically legally slapped his wrist and said, what are you talking about? It's you can't stop people from asking voters the question. So, yeah, he's not exactly batting 1,000 over at State Supreme Court.
No, not he can't win for losing this week.
Yeah.
And that, is the Proposition 1, the Idahoans for open primaries. They collected the correct amount of signatures. It was certified by the Secretary of State. And so they did everything to get that initiative on the ballot. And I'm glad that the Idaho Supreme Court said, people get to have a say now. People get to vote. Like, you can't stop people from voting.
Exactly. And I think that's basically what this is, are you really sure you want to have this fight? Because what's the look of this? You're trying to stop people from having a say in something? Because that's all ballot initiatives do. Yes, are there advocates behind them? Yes. But ballot initiatives saying, well, how do you feel about this? Right? And that's
exactly.
And so if you try to stop that, boy, that's really not a good look.
Feel your max with Brooks Running and the all-new Ghost Max 2. They're the shoes you deserve, designed to streamline your stride and help protect your body. Treat yourself to feel-good landings on an ultra-high stack of super comfy nitrogen-infused cushion that takes the edge off every step, every day. The Brooks Ghost Max 2. Technically, they're a form of self-care. Brooks, let's run there. Head to brooksrunning.com to learn more.
Well, that wasn't the only legal battle or legal question that Idaho courts have been deciding this week and in the past couple weeks. There was actually a kind of big First Amendment issue in the Idaho courts recently. Did you see about this?
I most certainly did. And this, of course, has to do with the high-profile encampment, if you will, protest not far from the state capitol that a lot of people have heard about, but I think in the coming weeks, a lot more people will see.
Yeah. So we're talking about the pro-Palestinian protesters, the People's Liberation University, and they've been on various parts of the Capitol lawn. They've been required to move periodically. So state officials have been removing protesters and belongings from areas of the Capitol lawn, saying that they couldn't protest there. And the 4th District Judge Jonathan Medema issued a temporary injunction last week saying you can't stop people from protesting, regardless of how you feel about it or if they're at the Capitol.
Yeah, it's another bad look. And indeed, the state has been trying to get around this by saying, oh, we have lawn maintenance, etc. And the protesters have, in some instances, moved or had some of their things taken from them, but they're not going away anytime soon. And now the courts have backed them up.
Yeah, and I know there was an issue. They've had tents that are erected in their protests. They have statements on them, and people sit in the tents, but the protesters have said that they aren't camping there. They aren't sleeping. They aren't like falling asleep in the tents. The tents are just there, like shade, and also as a way to make an encampment as a form of protest, which isn't illegal in the state.
I think a lot of people, I had mentioned this before, I think a lot more people are going to probably be seeing this. While some of us may have heard about this or read about this, well, in the coming weeks, with the University of Idaho Law School back in downtown Boise, and in a couple of weeks, we've got Boise Pride Festival that is going to be literally a block from this protest site. thousands of more people are going to be pretty curious and maybe even stop by that protest site and maybe have a conversation or two. It just becomes more visible.
And that's the point of the protest. That's part of what the First Amendment protection on protesting is that people can visibly see an issue you're having or something that you want to change or a message you want to really amplify to the community and surrounding area. And so it's not a good look to be trying to infringe on that and then claim that you need to do it for grass. Because that's what the state was saying is that the protesters would cause irreparable harm to the area's grass. And I really like the judge said, and I quote, "Less than pristine looking lawns are something many Idahoans struggle with during the summer heat and the winter cold and darkness. Lawns generally recover." End quote.
Wow.
So he wasn't really buying that grass should take precedence over the First Amendment.
So interesting. One little side note here, too, and this is something that maybe some of the listeners have heard about. A couple of the protesters were charged with a crime a few weeks ago. You may remember that Boise police charged two women in early July. They were accused of malicious harassment after a confrontation with a Jewish man in downtown Boise. The charges were actually dropped against one of the women, but the other, 28-year-old Hannah Tucker, actually, prosecutors insist on going forward with this. And by the way, we're talking about a felony here. We're not talking about disturbing the peace.
Yeah.
We're talking about a felony of malicious harassment. So just this week, she had the formal hearing where she said not guilty to this charge, and a jury trial has now been scheduled for October 29th, when all of this is going to come to surface. And I think it'll be a pretty high-profile trial if they get that far, but it is now on the docket.
Yeah, George, have you ever seen anything like that where some kind of a confrontation or something turns into a felony jury trial?
Well, I think, there have been a few reports of did someone touch someone else, etc., because making comments, that's maybe disturbing the peace, but a felony charge, something else is up here. And I think it might have something to do with if someone touched another person. There have been some conversations about, well, did someone touch another person's phone, etc.? Put all of that to the side. Basically, what we're talking about is, well, what was the argument about?
Yeah.
Well, I think we know where that's going to go, and it's very uncomfortable on a good day.
Yes. No, it will be. I'm definitely interested to see what comes out, what the evidence is, and how this is presented by the state. I am very interested because, I heard the reports in July, and then it just feels like it has escalated maybe exponentially. So I'm very interested to see what the rationale was behind that. I also do want to mention that I think this is very interesting. The People's Liberation University, so the group that gets to continue to protest on the state capitol grounds, it has the one in Idaho, in Boise, is one of the longest running in the country.
Wow.
It's been going for 106 days.
Wow. And when you think of all of the other high-profile protests there were on some major college campuses, that's really something.
It is. Yeah. There's only two of these camp protests still going in the country, the one in Boise and the one in Washington, D.C. Wow. So, I'm going to say Idaho's got stamina. If nothing else, we've got stamina when we believe in something. Well, George, that was a litigious bit of weekly happenings.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested. What's your top pick this week on the tail end of that?
I usually go for a movie or a play or something, but I'm going to go like full tilt nerd now. My pick is the Boise Public Library Board of Trustees meetings. Now,
okay. I'm intrigued.
Talk about a wonk here. And quite frankly, I've attended many of these meetings. I've covered many of these meetings. So this week at the Board of Trustees, and again, the Boise Public Library is the largest library system in the state. Guess what? Yeah, in the wake of this new state law that requires libraries and schools to have policies in place for people to challenge any book they want to challenge, well, they had their first challenge.
Oh, okay. What was challenged, George?
The challenge was a contemporary version of, drumroll, the Holy Bible. And the person challenging wrote in great detail, said minors could be harmed by certain passages concerning sexual conduct in the books of Genesis and Deuteronomy, Ezekiel, Judges, and Romans. And this person actually has, full detail in their complaint. But when you look at the application, and it's a very formal application, the name of the requester is Bradley Little Dick. So obviously, it's a huge slam to the governor.
Yeah.
But Bradley Little Dick, oh my gosh. Well, but
that person was pulling no punches.
Yeah, right. But the board has to formally look at this. And so they, in their meeting this week, and they didn't, it's like they could probably just bite their tongues from just not to laugh, but they had to formally address this and say, well, we can't find a Bradley Little Dick, in our system, and I don't think we actually have this version of the Bible, so I guess we move to just not consider this. But I mean, they actually had to move to push this along. But the bottom line was the president of this board said, well, trustees, guess what? We're going to be doing this every month from now on. So get ready. So we have now officially gone through the looking glass, folks. And the very first challenge was of the Holy Bible.
I know a lot of people talked about when this law was passed that was something that they wanted to challenge because of kind of the hypocrisy in what books are acceptable for children, what aren't, based on how you feel about some of these cultural issues. And so I'm not surprised to see this. I appreciate humor. So I guess I can appreciate the first it's public record now. The very first challenge was a challenge to the Bible with some tongue-in-cheek, very blatant humor. So
it will get rather serious in the months to come, for sure.
Yes.
But to be clear, energy, time, effort, and even expense is going to be, is going to be spent here because every complaint is going to have to be investigated.
Yeah. And the full weight of this falls on these library boards, on these librarians who literally just want to provide this incredibly necessary resource to the community.
Okay, what's your pick?
My pick, a little lighter, maybe something a little lighter. I am excited about the Idaho State Fair. The Western Idaho State Fair starts this weekend. In approximately, the countdown says, it's starting now. Here we are. I think I'm ready. School started this week, and I am ready for some fair food. So that's what I'm looking forward to this week. I'm going to get some funnel cake. I'm going to get some fried Oreos and maybe a turkey leg. Go see who won blue ribbons. Go check out everybody's prize-winning animals, and just have a very fair, good time.
Do you go on any of the rides?
Not so much. I've reached the age where that's less fun for me and just more stomachache inducing, especially after I'd rather just have my fried food and enjoy it at this point. But not so much rides. My kids probably will definitely want to have some ride time, and that's great for them. But I'm all about the really bad for me food and just a leisurely stroll watching everybody's animals and see who got blue ribbons, and just, that really nice kind of community vibe.
Now, to be sure, I love me some fair, but going to the fair is a bit of a social experiment.
Yes.
you could it could be an episode of Law and Order, or it could be an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. It can go in any direction.
No,
and, right.
There's a fair amount of people watching you get to do also at the fair. I don't think we talk about that enough. That it is just kind of a like, you're vibe checking the whole time, and that's part of it. It's part of the experience. You wash it all down with fried Oreos.
So interesting that so many of the food vendors are families, and that's how they make money for their college fund or for their vacation fund. So a lot of families run those booths, and whether they're selling their pies or those turkey legs, etc., you're supporting a lot of folks, a lot of your neighbors.
Well, thank you so much, George. I really appreciate your insight and getting to talk about everything that's happening this week with you again.
Boy, what a variety. I'm all set. I think I'll head to the fair now, too.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, and me, Lindsay Van Allen. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter with help from Natalia Aldana this week. Our music is by Up Is the Down Is the, and if you enjoyed our show today, leave us a review. It helps other people find us. We'll be back on Monday with another great local story. Catch you then.